Fela, a story by Darlington Chibuzor Eze. The music was loud, so loud that Nina did not hear the knock on the door. She hardly had visitors these days, was not expecting anyone today, and so when she opened the door and saw him pressed against the wall, she felt it an ache, an obscure fatigue. It gripped her, tightened her intestines. She looked at him and noticed how small he looked now, shrunk in his jacket, his skin a darker shade of what she knew. He smiled, a sheepish attempt that could not hide the fact that he too felt this longing, this accumulated hunger of wanting to be held, wanting to feel what was once felt, to touch what was once touched. She wanted to pity him, to feel something else than the hatred she had grown for him. "Nina," he said, trying to find his feet, moist sweat dotting his face. "Paul," she answered, looking at the ceiling, at nothing in particular. She wanted to ask how he was, how he had been. Instead she thought of the times when they did not have to look away while speaking to each other, when things were not like this, at those days when she knew what he would say even before he moved his mouth to speak. She thought of the times they held hands, watching the sunset at the beach, when they listened to Fela together in his room, her back on his bed, her eyes gazing at the paintings on his wall. He made her love Fela and his music. He called Fela a fighter, a genius, said his music was an artistic weapon. And she, because of how attached she had grown to him, wanted to taste this weapon. They had met at Biss's birthday party, where he had accompanied a friend and sat beside her, drinking his beer with an air of importance. It was the first thing she had noticed about him, this egocentric aura, the way he raised his shoulders high as if he was better than every other man in the room. Then she would notice his complexion when the lights hit his face. The bright yellow of his skin was like the inside of ripe orange. His face was white, making him more evident in the dim hall. When he winked at her, she smiled, but when he smiled back, she looked away. She knew men misunderstood smiles in Lagos. He walked up to her and sat next to her without an invitation. He didn't even ask if he could sit with her like a gentleman should. He just sat. "Do you want a drink?" he asked her. She said no, pretending not to have noticed his broadness, his big muscles. He was handsome, in a mild way. In a way that did not scream, in a way that did not command the attention of women. "I'll get you a drink," he said, and reappeared minutes later with an extra glass of beer. When he dropped the drink on the table, she asked him, "Is this how you just get drinks for ladies without permission?" She was happy that he was there and that he was the kind of man she liked, the kind that didn't ask for permission. She just couldn't let him know so quickly. "Yes," he answered, "I'm that kind of man." "Ooh, I see," she said in slight shock. "Has he been reading my mind?" She thought. "I'm Paul," he said, stretching a hand. He was not as tall as she had expected, as she had wanted, but he was not short either. She took his hand, letting him hold on to it as long as he wanted. His palms were rough, and the sight of the muscles that tightened his shirt tickled her, gave her sharp giggles. "I'm Nina," she said. "You're Igbo?" There was surprise in his voice and it irritated her. "Isn't it obvious?" She loosened his grip. The hall was getting hot, and the music made them shout, so he asked if they could talk outside. "I really don't like Igbo girls," he said outside, looking at her. "But I'll make an exception for you." He smiled, happy he had impressed her. She shook her head, stared briefly into her phone, and asked of his tribe. He was a Jaw, from Port Harcourt, and was an engineer in Lagos. "Do you know Bissy?" he asked after a while. "Yes, she's my friend." "I see. So do you think she's really 25? "I don't know," she said, staring deeply into his eyes. "You talk too much." He laughed loudly, as though it was funny. They exchanged contacts, and the next day he called her in the morning and asked if she was busy. His voice was small on the phone, smooth like a child's. She said, "Number, are you not supposed to be at work or something?" He asked. "Yes, but I don't have a job yet," she answered. "Ooh, I'm sorry." "It's okay." She took no offense. It was Monday. She should be busy. She should be at work. "So will I see your beautiful face today?" "No, please." She was happy he begged. "Why do you want to see my face? I miss it. We just met yesterday." "Does it matter? Let me take you out." He was bold. "Where do you want to take me?" "Can't tell you. It's a secret." "Okay, if you say so." "So, is that a yes?" "Maybe." "Okay, see you then." The excitement in his voice was sharp,